This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. Thanks for watching. I'm Ty Higgins. When separations are granted through the legal system, it typically means the end of a marriage. But sometimes, in agriculture, those unfortunate circumstances happen between siblings who don't get along and don't want to work together anymore. Making legal plans before a new farm partnership of any kind starts is the topic of discussion for this Ohio Farm Bureau podcast after this.
Hi, I'm Craig Pullman from CAP Farms here in southeast Van Wert County. I always call it a small to mid-size family farm cash grain operation. I'm the one here full-time. I've got a neighbor hired part-time, and my dad's still around here, I would say 6 or 7 months of the year. Otherwise, he's down snowbirding in Florida. The health benefits plan through Ohio Farm Bureau, I've priced that several different times through the years. And just the last year, my wife and I made the decision to sign up for it. We were struggling to get quite the coverage we wanted exactly through her work, which is how we've been getting our health insurance for a few years, a handful of years here. And so we priced it again, and it was really priced competitively. Was actually the same price point as her work insurance, and that was with her getting a subsidy from her work side. So was really pleased to see that.
Learn more about the Ohio Farm Bureau Health Benefits Plan at ofbhealthbenefitsplan.org.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. Thanks for watching, listening, wherever you might be. I'm Ty Higgins. Great to have back on the podcast Ryan Conklin with Wright and Moore. Ryan, always good to see you. Welcome back.
Thanks, Ty. Glad to be back.
So we've been doing this for a few months now called People Problems or Legal Problems. And you know, we joke off air that it's kind of a game show, right? Where we give a scenario and you tell us if that's a people problem or a legal problem. And there are a lot of different scenarios in agriculture, especially where you come from on the legal side, that involves family, involves businesses, succession planning, whatever the case may be. And we've had our fair share of these people versus legal problems. Give us one that we're going to be thinking about here today. I know that, you know, we talk about separation, you think about maybe a husband or wife, but that's not always the case in agriculture when it comes to separation.
Exactly, Ty. And we're going to have to work on our co-host nominations here sometime. We need to find the proverbial Vanna White to your Pat Sajak or Johnny Gilbert and Ken Jennings. So
you don't think this one host isn't good enough, I guess is what I'm hearing. But I was working on a theme song. I thought maybe we could add that to the deal too.
Okay, we'll split responsibilities and regroup on the next podcast. But yeah, so the type of separation that we're talking about, a little more rare and also not as talked about in farm succession, but still one that can produce a tremendous amount of friction in the planning process. Here we're looking instead of at spousal divorces or spousal separations, we're looking more at separations between siblings, where one sibling does want to continue the farm and the other is interested in cashing out and going into his or her retirement, or one side of the family's got a farming heir and the other does not.
So is that a people problem or is that a legal problem?
Well, some of those start off as, I think, legal problems, where we're trying to navigate these processes and come up with solutions, but they can descend into people problems pretty quickly when you've got different ideas of how much something is worth, whether that next generation is a good fit to continue the farm, how long is one of the siblings waiting to get paid, then going even further, and maybe one of the more detrimental behaviors that we'll see in succession planning as a whole is the habit of scorekeeping, where one sibling got a tractor and the other one didn't 30 years ago, or the other one was mooching propane or filling up from the off-farm diesel tank a lot more often. Those types of things can really make it difficult to find consensus and move the plan forward.
You talk about a marriage. You have some people that have agreements put in place before that marriage takes place. Is that something that can be done in these types of situations too? Kind of I guess, a family prenup, so to speak?
Yeah, getting the prenup or now postnuptial agreements that you can have as well as getting those off the ground are really tough for upcoming newlyweds or folks that are about to get married. But when you're getting into business with one another, especially as siblings, when you grew up together, you share the same parents, you live right down the road from one another. The last thing you want to talk about is how do we undo all of this? Or how do we get away from one another years down the road? But nobody ever wants to go through it, but these do happen pretty frequently in farm succession planning. So whether you're in a business together or a formal partnership, corporation, LLC, the key thing to do up front from a planning perspective is get that buy-sell agreement or operating agreement or partnership agreement, any of those forms in order with good legal counsel who's going to be able to kind of navigate that potential dissolution process down the road.
Where does that process start? Is this when you make a succession plan, when mom and dad are still around? Is that when you should start thinking about these things and putting this, I guess, in a linear motion?
Yeah, best time to think about succession planning was yesterday, sometime between yesterday and before somebody passes away, right, Ty? That's when things get to be pretty difficult to plan around. But as early in the onset of the process as possible would be my recommendation there. Have the conversation with your professional team, tax advisor, lender, insurance professional, legal counsel. All of those parties have a part to play in ensuring that the business operates smoothly, but also can be separated smoothly down the road.
Yeah, you use that word smoothly. And so my last question is, what happens if we don't take these steps? What have you seen worst case scenario wise if something does fall apart and we don't have a plan in place?
Yeah, worst case scenario is more lawyers get involved, Ty, which as an attorney, I don't want to see either. But those farm separations between siblings can be very costly, both in cash form, having to pay your professional team and witnesses to be able to defend your case and maybe a dissolution of a business in court. It can be expensive to even negotiate your way out of a business. There's appraisers that might need to be brought in as well to value assets. There could be lost land. You might depend on that land base for the next generation in order to succeed. But in a farm separation, if you've got one part of the family taking a large chunk of that land away, it can really threaten the viability there of the business. But perhaps what's most important, I'm talking about tangible losses such as cash, land, equipment. But these are family members. You're at the end of the day, you could go 60, 70 years of your life knowing your brother or sister and working with them every day and sharing those relationships to possibly not being on speaking terms anymore. And I think that's not a measurable loss, but a real tragic one nonetheless.
Ryan Conklin and his team at Wright and Moore have a lot of things written not just on their website at ohiofarmlaw.com, but also in our Ohio magazine. You'll find his people problems versus legal problems segments on all of our Ohio magazines over the past year or year and a half. And we appreciate all you do, Ryan, and appreciate you being on the podcast talking about these, what can be very tough issues to talk about. But as with anything succession planning, the earlier you have those conversations, the better.
Absolutely. Appreciate it once again, Ty.
This has been the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. We'll see you down the road.